right, go Eagles. All righty, great. Well, I'll just give you guys a little update. I went out and did some laundry today. I cleaned up the house a little bit. A lot of flank pain with one of those stents in your kidney. Man, I want to tell you what, but I don't know. I started bleeding again, and I think I'm just gonna take it easy for a little while. I do not want an infection, man. So well, at least I got some clothes cleaned and some other stuff done, and it feels a little bit more hospitable in here. Anyway, I'm just not rich enough to take a bunch of time off. It's just not the way it goes. Well, anybody have anything out there that they want to talk about? I've got a few things I was going to run through, but a lot of times people will wait till the end. Sometimes I'll ask, if you guys got any burning desires, and it's always quiet. And I figure we'll get it going right now. Nicholas Boserman, welcome to the live stream. Yeah, right on. Nicholas says I give you credit for braving the pain without meds. It was, yeah. I mean, I've studied it up, and there's some pretty big, scary looking dudes with testimonies that they basically went into the ER and demanded morphine. It was crazy. I've had other things happen that were painful as well. And let me see if I should have had my magnifying glass here so I could read the comments. Hopefully I just totally forgot to get that going. Where the hell is it? Well, there we go. Ouch. Yeah, it was intense. I think I'm changing my protocol. It's been over 10 years since I've had any benzos, and that was really what I was worried about. Anytime you're taking narcotic pills, you know, I mean, it should be for the right reason. You've got acute, severe pain. That's what they're made for. Long term, no, that's when you get addicted. So I'm going to change my protocol, and I'm going to next time it happens, if it ever does again or something else happens, yep, I'm gonna do some Lorset or something because that was like child labor for like 24 hours. It was, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Let's see what else is out there. Let me see. Gosh, I can hardly read here. Okay, there we go. Go Eagles. I seen my doctor today and told him how I was being gangstalked by the law. He said he's not surprised. Prescribed me hydroxyzine. I slept like a baby. Okay. Looks like my friend from Minnesota is trying to give me a call. Hi, Reed. You can hold on, guys. You can join me on the live stream. Ouch! Oh my gosh. Well, that's interesting. Go Eagles says that you really had the guts to tell your doctor, and wow. Well, you did mention it was by the law. You didn't say it was by the hidden Masonic leaders of the cult or something. And every now and again, people do get harassed. They're targeted by law enforcement. So that was risky, man. I'm impressed. That was taking a big chance. I'm taking a chance by talking about this stuff. And I've been thinking about that lately too. But you know what? I'm going to keep doing it. And I want to help you guys out. I want to help people who are just experiencing this stuff because it is confusing. It's crazy. You don't know what the hell to think. And it's like that last video I made. It's a complete shift in your reality. And you don't know what the hell's going on, and these people are everywhere. And for me, the spiritual application makes the most sense, and it involves everything. It can involve the cops, like Go Eagles is talking about. It can involve the government, whatever. It's all over the place. And let's see what we got here. Delata. I don't know, Nicholas. I think I'd be scared to go that far. I had a buddy that took some of those. He said he liked them, and I'm just What I'm gonna do is just take the very minimum amount of medicine that I have to if I ever have to deal with anything again. Because pain is okay. There's nothing wrong with pain. Um, but when you're talking about childbirth like pain, where it feels like somebody shot you with a crossbow in your back through your stomach and it twisted around and came out your, you know what? It's time to take something, man. Let's see what we got out here. Okay. Yeah, Nicholas says if you're in pain, you don't get high. That's true. And I think your body no, that's a good point, man, because I think I've heard that from people before that when they as long as they're in pain and they take the stuff, they don't have any trouble. But it's when they, just use it for anxiety or just to get high. That's when it turns into some troubles. Mr. Beach Walker, welcome to the live stream. I had a pretty bad cut on my foot from the lawnmower accident this summer. They gave me fentanyl. It did me worse than the inch. What happened? Gosh, they gave you fentanyl, man. I mean, I know they're trying to get it through the border. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's everywhere. You could have got that on the street corner, man. Just say, yeah, if I wanted some fentanyl, I could have just gone down to the smack shop, man. Kids are selling that at the playground, man. Come on. Oh man, I don't know. I've never done fentanyl. I know it's designed for very intense pain. Okay, let's see. Yeah, rise to power, stay away from fentanyl. You gotta pretty much stay away from everything now to stay away from fentanyl. They're mixing it with everything. We never had that problem before. I don't ever remember hearing about anybody, ODing on fentanyl. It's like a recent phenomena. They're talking about kids buying those pill molds or whatever, and making that stuff, and it's like, man, I don't. We never had that problem. It's it's obviously an agenda. Mr. Beach Walker, I was very very hesitant, but the said your cut is bad, you'll need it. Made me nauseated, cold sweat, and weak. So I didn't. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like morphine. There's a lot of people that like that stuff. I tried that and it made me throw up. I couldn't take it, man. And that does the same thing to my mom. When she got her back surgery, I was up at the hospital with her, and they gave her morphine, and I had to hold the puke bucket for her. And I'm like, do not give her any more of that. Just give her some damn Percocets. But yeah, well, yeah, when you like I said, if you're in pain, that's one thing. Don't make it too complex. And then when they give you some of that stuff, like I don't know, some of those shorter acting drugs that are real intense, you got to wait. So you might get relief for an hour, but then you're screwed for another whatever 4 hours. That doesn't work out very well. Yeah, only lasts 30 minutes. Yeah, whoopee doo, man. You might as well just punch me and knock me out or something. Well, anyway, interesting. Go Eagles brought up, talking to a doctor about gang stalking, and like I said before, I don't recommend anybody talk to anybody really, um, because you're always going to run into those two crowds of people, either the perps or the people who they're just part of the menagerie. They don't even know it's there. Um, and what do you do at that point? You just setting yourself up. But the doctor thing, that's taking a big chance. Go Eagles. That's wow. I don't know, man. I've had a lot of yeah, that's interesting because back in the day when I was going to see doctors for anxiety, I would get a lot of key questions. And one of the questions was uh are do you feel that people are after you? You know, um do you feel safe at home? Are you afraid for your life? Stuff like that. Is there anything else going on? They would just be probing. I'd be like, no, I'm just, I just can't sleep. I'm nervous, having panic attacks. Well, I don't know. Are you just thinking about suicide? I mean, and and some of it you could see that, it's reasonable. If somebody's having panic attacks, it's not completely out of the question to ask them if they're, worried about something or, try to get to the bottom of their anxiety to figure out whether it's chemical or whether there's some kind of psychological issue or whether, it's maybe something that, the authorities might need to be get involved in. But, I knew. I'm not going to say anything, you know. Um, but, that's the thing about gang stalking is that it follows the criteria of psychiatry. And, technically, you could start the whole thing off with nothing more than gaslighting. I mean, gaslighting goes all the way through gang stalking. But usually, before people get that intense traumatic invasion, there is gaslighting. I've talked about that. People, they might start saying things to you. There might be suggestions. That's part of the game. I mean, you got to really mess somebody's mind up. I mean, that's really what gang stalking is about. And you start throwing little suggestions out there. And I think we talked about that one night. And Nicholas Bosserman was talking about how he experienced V2K before he really started to get the assaults. And I think there were some other people talked about remembering comments and other things that preceded the intense overt stalking. And I experienced it. So, I mean, for me, that's just part of the mind game. That's the gaslighting. And then if you're going to go over to the psychiatric criteria on that would call that level 1. Moving over to the traumatic invasion, you've got the onset of anxiety, paranoia, depression. No, depression would probably come a little bit later. I guess you could say that. You're just going to be paranoid and anxious at first. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to have sleep deprivation immediately, depending on what they do. And then, of course, you're going to move into the other stage of the sensitization and conditioning. And then things start to become chronic. You got chronic anxiety. You could experience depression at that point, but that might come a little bit later. And you could start to, if you were going to look at that as the criteria of diagnostic material, I would say chronic anxiety, maybe even chronic paranoia. You might even be, considered for psychosis at that point, but really not until you move a little bit further through it and you get into the heavy gaslighting where they start flipping everything around on you. But by then, the target obviously knows that they're going to be, dealing with this stuff. They know that they're being hunted down. They're aware that they're a target, unquestionably. And then the strategy flips around. It's on and off for them. And that's a hard, reality to deal with because depending on what you're dealing with, you can really start to wonder where you are. And that's when you move into the heavier diagnostic criteria, the persecutory delusion, paranoid schizophrenia, um, delusions of grandeur, stuff like that. That's when you enter into that little cluster of the personality. And beyond that, it's kind of it is kind of a repetitive process where it just kind of repeats. And I've talked about that before with gang stalking, that repetition is part of this. And you just mix it up and watch the targeted individual become more dysfunctional, more isolated. Uh, and a lot of things can happen to targets. They can start to experience health effects. The sleep deprivation alone is pretty bad. The paranoia is, exponential. And, it's they incrementally box you in. So at first you might just be sensitized and paranoid of certain words or maybe geographical areas or, maybe of someone that has infiltrated your life, maybe a neighbor or family member or whatever. Um, but then you can move into the break-in aspect where you're afraid to leave your food. Um, Other things are in question. You're worried about the energy weapon attacks. You're thinking about the V2K stuff, or the demonic stuff. Because I think it's hard to tell. I mean, six of this, half dozen of the other on that one. I'm not even going to argue about that, because you just don't know. The only thing you know for sure is that at the root, you're dealing with some spiritual wickedness. And let's see what we're talking about out there. I've seen comments flying by me, and I just figured you guys are probably in a dialogue. Don't forget to hit the like button. Rise to power. Yeah, there you go. Okay, I just kind of went back. And let me see here. Okay, we were talking about, looks like you guys are talking about pain medicine. Rise to power says stay silent. Yeah. That's what I do, man. I'm not messing around with it. Okay. Nicholas Boserman says I don't even look for them at this point. Yeah, amen to that. You gotta That's the way you gotta live. That's really, the ultimate protocol for gang stalking. Because, and I always reference the new targeted individuals because they get sucked into that. I did. I was, really super paranoid, man. I mean, what are you supposed to think? I mean, it's a complete reality shift. And then, I mean, you don't know how this information is getting to these people. I mean, that's gosh. And you get, they have cameras and then they really play with your mind, you know. And I think I told this story before. I had some guys one time because this was right in the beginning stages of the whole thing that I was dealing with. And of course, you get the directed conversation, but you get aggressive stuff, man. And I had these guys, in my yard. And I was renting this house, and they're walking around through the yard. The signal's got to be coming from over there. I don't know how I don't know. It popped right up on the TV. They're all talking about all this weird stuff. I don't think they're trying to make me think that I was, being broadcast on the local, TV station or something. This is like back in the 90s. That's, and they're looking up my roof and they're walking around my backyard and they're pointing at my house and there's the signal's got to be coming from here. I don't know how else people are looking at him. And I was like, what the hell? I was looking at, and yeah. And so, that was of course to get me, thinking that all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, when when targets get attacked in multiple geographical locations by, people everywhere and you can't get away from it, that would be a good delusion to send somebody that, oh yeah, you're being broadcast on on a television, network or something like that, right? That was before the internet was really hooked up though, you know. Now they just, tell you you're on a, dark web show or, whatever. But that was before. So, I mean, it's how do you explain something like that? You know, walking in my yard, talking about that kind of stuff. Okay, let's see here. Go Eagles, surveillance being followed, electronic surveillance. Yeah, there's all that, and you don't know. You can assume a lot of things. And I brought up the fact that before, when I started experiencing all that stuff, they didn't even have it. I mean, we didn't have smartphones or anything. I mean, it was basically the analog, systems, copper wire, no fiber optics, and it happened. And there's no real explanation for that other than then you're looking at some demonic stuff. I've talked about that before too. When targets get all that street theater and all this directed conversations and little games and everything. You start looking for the stuff, trying to figure out where the cameras are, trying to figure out, I don't know how many guys out there that are listening to this have played that game. I guess it's different now, but before, I mean, you're talking about a completely different world back in like the early 90s. And then I remember one time I got a phone call when I was looking. I think I brought that up on another video. And I'm like, I got to find this stuff. I don't know how they know. I don't know how they're doing it, but I know there's something. And I'm digging through everything, ripping everything apart. And I got a phone call. What are you looking for? Trying to find something, huh? How you doing? And, there was no way they could see me in there. There was no one around the yard. I had the blinds closed. And even beyond that, I think I was in the basement at that point. Yeah. Wonderful stuff, man. Okay. Well, Go Eagles got some pretty good stuff here. Yeah. All righty then. Well, yeah, it's all back to Nicholas's comment about I don't even look for him. And that's the way to deal with it. I mean, you can get jaded. I got to the point where I didn't even care. I didn't care about any of it. And that was probably the closest I got to freedom throughout this whole thing when I adopted the attitude that, if you're dealing with tyranny, if you're dealing with a bunch of individuals, we'll just say that they are hacking your phone. They're hacking your phone to get into your house or get into your vehicle. They're putting cameras. They're playing games. You really want to watch me that bad? That's obviously your psychological issue. I mean, I got to the point where I didn't care. I mean, I didn't care about the mind reading. I didn't care about the surveillance. I didn't care about anything. Sitting around in my underwear, you know, I didn't care. I didn't care anymore. Smoking pot back when I used to smoke and growing weed. I didn't care. I was like, yeah, screw you. You want to watch? I'd do something lewd every now and again, assume that I knew where the cameras were. But, that's not I'm not suggesting anybody do that. And I'm also not suggesting anybody smoke pot or anything. I'm just telling you, I just got to the point where I didn't care. Um, and that was probably the closest to freedom that I experienced because as a target, the anxiety, the paranoia, the vanity, the self scrutiny, it will kill you. It will seriously drive you crazy, right? And I've talked about that when targets, they get all this stuff from all directions, and then nothing is left off limits. Their life is invaded to the point where some targets don't even feel like they can think something without everybody knowing, or these weird people monitoring their mind or whatever. I mean, it's, whatever, kiss my butt. I mean, and a lot of them are, you know, doing this stuff through illusions, in my opinion. That's just my breakdown of it. I think a lot of it's demonic. Um, and I think it's set up. I think they've got a plan for everybody. And I've talked about that in videos before. They have a plan for everybody's life. A lot of this information that I've talked about before concerning the mind reading and all those little, gaslighting games, that comes from outside of our little physical dimension here. You know, that's my explanation. And it goes right along with biblical criteria where you have the soothsayers that they know things that are going to happen. They do, forecasting and stuff like that's not the shotgun technique when you're dealing with that stuff. That's something that goes into the secret societies. That's the hidden knowledge and secret wisdom, the enlightenment that has deceived those guys. And they're not dumb. They're the people involved in the higher ups concerning the 33rd degree for Freemasons, and you get into the Illuminati. Those people are not dumb. Okay, this is real powerful, deception that's a strong delusion. I think that's one of the things that the Bible talks about That, if people don't want the truth, God will give them over to a strong delusion. Okay. And it's propagated by those mechanisms. And one of those mechanisms is information that comes from outside of our dimension. Okay. Outside of space time. And, that's when you're dealing with prophecy or you're dealing with any of that stuff. That's what you're dealing with. And of course, it's divvied up to targeted individuals, and it's used to set them up. People talk about their hotel room being pre-wired, or they'll get into a new rental, and it seems like they knew that they were going to get there. How'd they know? Well, they do. I mean, it's. I'm not saying they can read your mind, but they know what's going to happen via that perspective, depending on maybe possibly multiple options. But if you're an open theist or whatever, depending on your definition of open theism. But it's not that hard to do, and people are pretty predictable. When the spiritual dimension gets leeway to harass somebody, it's a chain reaction. What's going to happen when a target when a target gets attacked. When people start breaking into their house and using personal information and street theater to harass them, they're going to get paranoid. Okay, that's inevitable. They're gonna freak out. They're gonna notice. Okay, you break into somebody's house when they're sleeping. Now you're really up in the game. Now now they don't feel safe in their own house. You start attacking them at key times, using synchronicity. Maybe in vulnerable times, maybe in their when they're in the bathroom. Start throwing stuff at their house or breaking in while they're taking a shower and moving stuff around. Really freak them out. You know, yeah, it's predictable. You can tell what's going to happen to them. You start harassing them at work. You throw all this stuff together, and you got a nightmare. You know, and so anytime you're dealing with that psychiatric criteria, well, it's you know, there's no getting out of it. There really isn't. And it's like I was talking about for the last couple videos. I think I mentioned it in the last video, last live stream at the very least, is that you could say that schizophrenia is caused by the environmental factor of harassment, right? Because targets, they do start reading into things. In fact, I was watching some videos. Um, there was a guy, I'm not going to mention who it was, and he was, just out driving around and just basically everything that he ran into was about him. And I'm like, man, I'm not doubting that he's a target individual at all. I'm sure he is. Why the hell would you start thinking stuff like that? But it was starting to get the better of him. All you can do is just make videos and hope people start seeing this, because as Nicholas Bosserman pointed out, if you're looking for this stuff, you're going to see it. It's like me going to the emergency room. The first thing that ran through my head, I'm eating food, I take a few bites. All of a sudden, it feels like I'm dying. I got this pain, and I made this syllogistic conclusion: somebody poisoned me. You know, I didn't say anything to anybody, but I'm just being honest. That was going through my head. What the hell is it? It was right in conjunction with me eating. Right after the live stream, and it's those types of chain reactions that I think you know you got to watch out for. Let's see what's going on here in the comments. Okay, in the 90s, the 90s. Okay, let's see. I've been missing a lot of the comments here. Okay, never mind. You guys got a dialogue going on. All right. Well, does anybody have anything to add to this menagerie that we've got that we're dealing with? Or did everybody just show up for the freak show? I I don't know, man. I wonder sometimes. I've seen that on a lot of some of those channels out there. It's like, boy, they just got a lot of freaky short videos, man. It's like they've got a lot of subscribers. I try to do a professional job, but I guess maybe I've been shadow banned or something. Yeah. Nicholas Bosserman says, we all jump to conclusions like, well, yeah, you know, that's the point. That's one of the psychological effects of gang stalking, period. And there's nothing you can do about that except recognize it. You got to see what's happening. And, that's, yeah. If you start feeling guilty about that, you start beating yourself up, you're doing their job. Never do that. Okay. Anybody have a question out there? Like I said, I'm just flying off the cuff tonight. And maybe I missed something. I'm just kind of shifting through the comments here. Well, Nicholas Bosserman says at least you're aware of it. Awareness is the key. Awareness is everything when it comes to gang stalking. If you're not aware of what you're dealing with, what's going on, you're screwed. You're going to buy into the disinformation. You're going to freak out, and you're going to play into their game. They're going to push your buttons, and you're going to be programmable. They're going to reprogram you, and you don't stand a chance. And I've talked about that before. I think there's a lot of people that we don't even know about because I don't think a lot of people could deal with this harassment, man. You know, I've seen people freak out over some really minor stuff compared to what targeted individuals deal with, and I mean, you're talking about some intense harassment. You mean you're getting followed around? People are getting into your personal property. I mean, they're breaking into your house. They're attacking you. You talk about covert drugging, poisoning, food tampering. I mean, it's a complete 100% reality flip for for the target. I mean, you can't get any worse than that. It can involve people in your family. You experience harassment in your neighborhood. You're basically isolated and blackballed pretty much immediately. It's beyond. It's beyond anything. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Steve Wells, welcome to the live stream. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm trying to look through these. Rise to Power says, as a targeted individual, you need to be confident in yourself and more confident that God will protect you from the workers of iniquity. Wow, that was a powerful statement there. Yeah, that's that's intense. And it's true. Um it I mean, I don't, God doesn't have to do anything, but I know that he's able to work things out even if it doesn't look like it, because a lot of times things are going to happen to you as a target where you're like, well, God, I thought you were supposed to protect me from the well. He's going to work it out. So it's not that he's going to stop it all the time. He can. Sometimes he'll do that. But a lot of times he'll just use it. I've noticed that's confusing for targets because they'll wonder, why did you let him break into my house, God? Or, why did you let him do that to my food or whatever you're dealing with or harass me at that job or well, he's letting everybody do what they're going to do and he's working things out. I mean, how God does things is beyond anything you can comprehend. And for him to allow men and angels to have free moral agency, he's got to. I mean, if he just intervened and everything, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be real anymore. Let's see here. Nicholas Boserman says, I think it gets easy to blame everything negative on stalkers. Usually it's not them. Well, sometimes that happens. But, there's a reason why you're paranoid. Okay. That would be my comment to that. I would say it's easy to read into stuff and it's easy to try to blame the things and get into that place where you're not taking any responsibility or whatever. I get your point. But you also have to remember that part of this process involves internalization to condemnation, and you're inevitably going to screw up. Okay, and you have to remember why you are the way you are. That's one of the hardest parts about being a target long term. If you're one of those targets that lasts, um, if you're one of them, you know, targeted individuals that's been doing this for decades, even. Well, you're dealing with you know, you're dealing with a diverse menagerie of techniques that starts and stops. It's on and off. It involves a different level of gaslighting than a targeted individual who's just joining the community. And if you forget why you're paranoid, if you forget even just for a day, they can get you to internalize this whole thing. And you have to remember that. You wouldn't even be, sensitized or thinking about any of this stuff unless you were attacked, right? I mean, you got to remember that if you make a mistake, there's a reason that you were even thinking that to begin with. I mean, I can go back, before this stuff ever happened to me, and I never would have even, sometimes I didn't even lock the door of my house. You know, I didn't. I wasn't worried about it. I never sat around and thought about that stuff. If something was moved around on my counter or whatever, I would have, yeah, maybe one of my friends came in. I wasn't home. They helped themselves to, a glass of water or something. Wouldn't have bothered me. Now, something gets moved around in my house when I get home. Oh my gosh, nothing's safe. Don't touch anything. And there's a reason. It's because I've been harassed. All right, let's get out here in the comments again. Okay. Sorry, guys, my nose is plugged up. I'm having a hard time breathing, and I know my voice sounds weird, but you just have to deal with it. Yeah, we got somebody here from Brazil, huh? Right on. Oh, hi, Tasha. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, Nicholas Boserman says some of the people involved in my targeting dropped dead or met misfortune. Really? Yeah, well, that's interesting. That is. There's a mixed bag on that one. Some of I can say that you know because I've looked up some of these people, and there's a couple of them that have met some misfortune, but most of them, I'll be honest with you, they're doing okay. And I've talked about that before. That's where you get into faith because you're dealing with a world that has been hijacked. It's just like targeted individuals. Okay, the means that you perceive the world with have been hijacked. They are trying to hijack all your perceptive faculties that you perceive the world with. They want to use it against you. They want to reprogram you so you're reading into everything. You're listening to for the hidden meaning in conversations. You're looking over your shoulder. You're suspicious of everybody. You're just grinding metal. You're going nuts. And you see everything according to how they have critiqued. That's the plan, anyway. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's doing that, but this whole world is the same way in the sense that for the justice that should be happening for targets, It's not. And God is, he's doing it how he does it. And I can respect that. And he's been allowing this, whole thing, and not just gang stalking, but you look back at the kingdoms all the way back to after the Tower of Babel. He's allowing Satan to rule the planet temporarily. I mean, he's God's still sovereign, but he's allowing him to do that, and they have a job to do. And one of the most difficult aspects of being harassed is that it just seems like they're all getting away with it. And if you need these people to suffer, that's just one more thing that you're probably not going to get. You're just kind of cheating yourself at that point. I mean, I've thought about it. I get angry. I've even thought about doing some stuff myself before. I'm not going to lie. But once I get to that place where I realize that I've just got to let a lot of this go and quit thinking about it, I don't have any freedom. And you're doing it for yourself. When you forgive somebody, in the sense that you just put it up on a shelf and just whatever, I mean, you're doing it for you, right? You are. Because, your emotional state is going to be affected by gang stalking. Okay. If if you let it. And I'm not saying that if somebody comes and does something to you, that it's not going to make you mad or they destroy your problem. Of course, it's gonna, but it doesn't have to fester. You know, I mean, I've gotten to the point where I've thought about it. I've thought about, I'm just going to go take care of some of these, perps, and I'm not gonna think about this anymore. I'm tired of it, and there's too many risks, and it's not going to work. Then you're playing into the strategy of the kingdom of darkness, and who knows what they're going to do. You know, so letting go of that is for you. Let's see here. Okay. Well, yeah, when he comes, when Christ returns, it's game over for it's game over for all these people. People talk about the rapture, you know. You have the great tribulation, which is not a 7-year period in my opinion. I don't think that's correct. There's going to be a final 7-year period that involves a great tribulation, and then there's going to be the great and terrible day of the Lord. Okay. And then you got people running for the hills, you know, and gang stalkers are going to be part of that. Just imagine if somebody was harassing you and pulling some street theater on you, and all of a sudden, Jesus returned, and the sky was they they'd be running for cover. But yeah, it's going to be over at that point. And I've talked about that before too. That all the stuff that supposedly is making these people happy. You're the glue, you're the little, element of proof that they've made the right choice. You know, that well, at least I'm not one of those people, right? And that's why I think a lot of them get that little kick in their step around you when you're getting harassed or they see you getting bullied or whatever, because that happens. And some of it could be some other weird stuff. We've talked about that. But, at the same time, they've compromised. A lot of these people have sold out to the enemy. Okay. And they know what's coming. They know eventually they're going to be dealing with it. So there's a lot of ways you could look at this whole thing, but when it happens finally, or when these people meet misfortune, like Nicholas Bosmerman said, you could die in a car crash. I could be dead by tonight. Who knows what's going to happen? A plane could fly into your house or something. You don't know. you know, you could die, and then well, it's over, and you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to pay the piper, and if you're not going to be redeemed, you're going to hell. Okay, that's not good. You're not getting out of that. I don't know what, this world hasn't got that much in it, does it? I don't know, whatever. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Go Eagles has got the chocolate vape. Okay. All right. Let's see what's in the comments here. I'm going to scan through here and go back up. Rise to Power said, I've had gangstalkers die not too long after doing what they did. Ooh. Oh, man. Yeah. That's, well, you know what happened to them. there's no, there's no question where they are now. Okay. Well, you guys have anything more about gang stalking? Like I said, I just kind of went off the cuff. Figured I'd get out here and interact with my fellow targeted individuals. Okay. Well, we're not getting anything. Let's see. Was there anything else I could talk about? Well, we ran through the sequence of targeting. You got the gaslighting. You've got the traumatic invasion. You got the sensitization, conditioning, the gaslighting. At least as far as the on and off. That's confusing for targets too. I've talked about that. It'll switch up on you, and you don't know what's going on. That's when the intense gaslighting starts, and then you can get into derealization. And of course, that just you could put the psychiatric criteria right over to the side of that and go all the way from paranoia and anxiety down to full blown schizophrenia and psychotic depression. Um, and all target individuals are going to be dealing with that. Unfortunately, for people who want to, try to communicate this to people who've either never experienced it or possibly the perp, you're going to be taking that chance, and that's something to remember. You got to deal with that. You know, um, as far as I'm concerned, when I'm out and about doing what I'm doing, gang stalking doesn't exist. If I run into another TI or whatever, I'm going to feel them out before I start saying anything because you just don't know who you're dealing with. You know, infiltrators are like that. And you got plenty of them in the targeted individual community. And I've talked about the fact that this has become a hunting ground. And I know some of them. Okay. And I know some of the channels out there that make me very, I don't know, suspicious. Okay. And I see a lot of stuff that, as far as I'm concerned, is disinformation. But you have different targeted individuals or supposed targeted individuals involved in this whole. You can tell, there's a little clique of them, and I don't know. I just keep my eye on them. You got to be careful of that, guys. And like I said, I don't call people out on the channel, and I don't name other people's channels unless I'm going to say something positive because I don't have to. I give people information and I warn them about what not to become involved in. I warn them not to give out personal information or try to sign up for some lawsuit that doesn't involve a law firm. You got to be careful of those things. Okay, we've got some other stuff out here. Let me see what's going on. Nicholas Boserman says, from boxing, I learned no matter what the situation is, you fare better. If you stay calm, if you're getting your ass kicked, it hurts less the next day if you don't tense up. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. Just try to relax. Just try to relax. It'll pass. Yeah. And a lot of times, that's funny that you would put it that way because, as a targeted individual, a lot of people might not like this, but you do have to learn to get your ass kicked. And that's part of it, because you have bigger things to worry about. If they can send a perp your way and distract you and bait you into a situation and get you all worked up or whatever, they'll do it. They'll do it. And you got to live with the ramifications of that and trying to tell everybody that, you're some targeted individual that's going to work. Then you got, psychotic, diagnostic stuff on top of it, man. Yeah. And a lot of times, that's really the one of the protocols that I follow. You know, if somebody wants to get that way with me, you win. Okay, whatever. Do what you're gonna do. I just want to get home, and I've got work to do. I'm not gonna, I'm done dealing with you. Whenever you're done, have your fun. Whatever. I'm not gonna react. Yeah, that's good advice. Okay. Kent Montero says, sucks when you just want to eat, but you can't. That's torture right there. Health declines. Now you got nothing. Okay. So yeah, stressed. Well, that's part of the strategy of gang stalking. What happens when, you have too much hunting in a certain area. I've talked about that before. Animals will stop taking care of themselves. They won't eat right. They'll die off. I've seen places before, where I used to live that the game, fishing game would have to close those areas off because the hunting would just get so insane. The pressure on the animals was so intense that they would quit taking care of their young. They would be all mangy looking. They'd get sick and die. And it's the same with targets. They're being molested, literally. You know, people are harassing them. They get stressed. They can't eat. They can't sleep. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's part of the game. Let's see here. Boston King Josiah's ministry says, "What about the spiritual aspect of being rejected from dates?" Yeah. Well, I don't, the spiritual aspect of it. I mean, this whole thing is spiritual for me. That's how I process it. I don't believe that people are being controlled by a supercomputer when they harass me. I think it's demonic. Either that or somebody has gotten a hold of them and paid them to do it, and they're being influenced by demons. However you want to, fix that. But that's a good point, because targeted individuals are hindered in a lot of different areas, and dating is, yeah, that's fundamental, to the one of the main drives in your life is to have a family, to have a spouse, you know, to be sexually active in a healthy, godly way, right? And you're being hindered from that. I mean, it's even if you're not being rejected from the date or from people you want to date, what I've experienced is that your life is just so crazy that you know it's going to ruin the chances of a healthy long term relationship with somebody that is a good option for you. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't understand the cameras and the locks and the targeted individual stuff. And full disclosure is important. You want to be honest in a relationship, right? All of a sudden, you let's go get married, and well, I'm a targeted individual. It's like, what? What are you talking about? That's not fair. You can't do that to somebody. Why are you so paranoid? Oh, I haven't told you about that. Um, but it does. It stops you from doing it, period. And so not only are you dealing with just social deprivation, you're dealing with, you know, sexual deprivation, technically, that type of intimate, and not just sexual intimacy, but hugging and stuff like that. I mean, just all the bonding that you would get in a normal, husband wife relationship, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're being you're being attacked, you're experiencing tyranny, you can't change it. That's very frustrating. And even when you get into the biblical criteria of burning with lust, in other words, your sex drive, when it talks about when someone fasts, if they're married from sex, that they have to do them, in a mutual agreement, lest the devil take advantage of that. So not only are you being deprived, but now, the risk of you, just doing something that's immoral, maybe fornicating or committing adultery. Now the odds of something like that happening have gotten more complicated. And a lot of targets, and I've done this before, to where I would just get into a relationship, and I would be serious about it. I wouldn't just be out looking for a one night stand, but at the same time, I couldn't really follow the proper, process of courting someone and, doing all that stuff, because you can't, because of all the complicated stuff that you're dealing with as a target. That's a good question. Let's see here. Huh. Fred Mad, the perps are comic relief asking for bananas in the pharmacy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Joseph Lennox, how can you tell if you're nearing a breakthrough, and what possible outcome does one receive from a breakthrough? Wow, that's interesting. A breakthrough. So I'm just kind of picking out comments here. For all I know, you specified more about that. Um, Depends on what you mean by a breakthrough, I guess. Technically, for the targeted individual, you're breaking through the wall. No, you're 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 in a different reality. Um, and you're awakened to a lot of things. A lot of people out there are never going to find out, or even there, until it's too late. So that's one of the first things, that you're going to put a positive spin on being a target. At least there's malevolent evil out there. At least the stuff can happen. Unless you're going to believe the supercomputer stuff, I guess. I guess it doesn't matter. Um, but I think that's a good question, because a lot of times in the gaslighting process, the handlers, the perps, the spiritual entities that you're dealing with are going to play with you in that arena. And I've had that happen. Oh, you're free. It's over. People start being nice to you, or they'll try to, swing it in a way where the disinformation in the street theater is like, well, we just had to teach you a lesson, or something like that. You get guys that might have a substance abuse problem or whatever. And then there's that theme involved, that these people, they're not really trying to drive you crazy. They're just trying to help you. We just want to, fix your personal issues or whatever. So I would be very careful. I would be very careful in that arena. Okay, I've talked about this before. The protocol is consistency, because you're going to be taken in a lot of different areas, and a lot of different emotional, I don't know, highs and lows. And you're going to experience a lot of different dispensations of harassment as you go along this journey. And if you're, I mean, it's okay to hope that this stuff is going to stop, man. But you don't want to need anything. Okay, to be needy is to let them have control. Okay, anytime they have something you need, they've got you, man. Okay, I've learned that the hard way. Because there's things that you want in this world. I've talked about that before. And until you're ready to let that stuff go, man, they're going to have control over you. You can hope. I would suggest that, depending on your harassment, if you're dealing with the heavy stuff and everything, I would wait, probably at least 2 or 3 years. If you think you're coming up to a breakthrough and you think you're on the verge of where they're just gonna leave you alone, time will tell, because the last thing you want is for them to pull that little game on you, and they'll do that. They'll flip it right back around. I've had it happen to me, and you got all this stuff on your plate, and it's really a way to trigger the target because a lot of times you'll become desensitized to the point where their harassment is not affecting you the way that they want. Okay, you're expecting it, but you're not reacting the way that they want you to. You're not, you know, jumping at everything. You're not freaking out. You're not, you're non-reactive. They don't like that. And in order to get to your emotions, they need to, let you think you're out of the woods for a while to get you pursuing some things that you want, that you need. Maybe going back to college or doing whatever, or trying to hook up with that, special someone, or getting into a mortgage or whatever, and then they'll bring the hammer back. So I would wait and be very cautious, because if you're one of those targets who's experiencing heavy harassment, they love that game, and you want consistency. You want consistency. That'd be my answer for that. Okay, let's see here. And I'm scanning way back here in the comments. Hi, Tracy. Hope you're doing well. Oh, my nose is plugged up. Sorry, guys. Every day is a breakthrough. Rise to power. Just me, Heidi. How you doing, sweetheart? I was gaslighted heavily when I was the new target. Absolutely. Gaslighting 101. Targeted individual. Rise to Power says, when it first happened to me, I had no knowledge of it. It was scary, but after researching and adapting to the situation, I found peace, and it pisses them off. Absolutely, it does. That's one thing to remember, guys, that when you don't react and you let this stuff go, and like I said before, in your heart, by faith, that eventually they're going to be dealt with. And you just let that stuff go, and you have that inner peace, you have that freedom, you have that type of breakthrough, I guess. And yeah, you got it. You didn't even get any better than that. They can't touch you then, and they hate it. It does piss them off. Just remember that, guys. That's good advice. Rise to power. Okay. What do you want to ask tonight, Tracy? What's going on? Okay, I'm waiting. Did I miss it? I don't think so. Okay, we're gonna wait for Tracy to come out and have a comment here. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. At the end of the day, that's what they want, is your peace, says Rise to Power. That's what they're stealing, man. And I know for a fact. I mean, if you're having a bad day or you ain't got nothing going on, they can come up and mess with you. They like that too. But think about those times where you actually have some peace and they come in from all directions to get it. You know, I've seen that before, right? They're even making comments. Oh, some low hanging fruit. Num num. Yeah, it's creepy when you really get into this thing, man. That's why I lean towards the spiritual application. I've seen that. I mean, I've had them show up at my house, 20 at a time before back in the day. It was just like, gosh. And they know. And I had somebody make a comment to me one time that it was right when I first realized that that was one of their main goals, take your piece. It's that one of the perps said to me, well, right when you start to just relax, you can bet you're going to get attacked at that point because they're not going to let you have any if they can. If they can help it, they're not going to let you have any peace. And I've noticed that before. It's those days where you actually do feel happy. I'm not saying that you got to ruin it by being apprehensive, but just have that protocol because if they can trigger you, man, you know, you always have to be ready to deal with a battle when it comes to being a targeted individual. Okay. Oh, Tracy, sorry about that. That you wouldn't trust anyone to date. Well, that's another problem for targets. That's a good point, Tracy. I mean, everybody that's a targeted individual has trust issues. I mean, that's getting out of that. There's no getting out of it, man. I definitely do. I mean, I don't. People want to make a big deal out of that. I That's like I don't have to trust anybody. A lot of targets are going to be accused. That's part of the gaslighting that goes along with being a targeted individuals. What are you just paranoid? You don't trust anybody? You can trust me. I don't have to trust you. I don't trust anybody. If you want me to trust you, you better damn well earn it. It's going to take time, and I don't want to. Don't be pushy with me. You know, I mean, I probably wouldn't come out and say that, but that's what I'd be thinking. you know, you know, I hate that. That's like when you run into those people that they're like, "Oh, I got you back. Oh, don't worry about it, man. Oh yeah, you got any problems? Really? Okay, well, the way you're talking, you're just trying to convince me because you want to cash in on something. If you're going to be there, well, then we'll just drop it right now and we'll see. Just ease up on it. Yeah, yeah. Trust issues are a big thing that can lead targets into being gaslighted as well. This is not your fault, you know. And the whole prospect of having a relationship and a close relationship where you are really trusting someone is a different process for targeted individuals. For me, um, I'm not going to put too much. I don't know. I'm not going to hope too much about that until I really get to know you. And even then, you have to realize because of the spiritual foundations of this stuff, of the harassment, that anybody can be affected. And just because somebody is affected doesn't mean they're not your friend, too, or whatever. So a lot of times, people can be affected by these damn things. And I'm talking about the demonic. And they're not even a perp. They're not even, like trying to gang stalk you or anything like that. They just, got, handled themselves kind of. They experienced an invasion into their life and they were used like a little puppet, So you got to be careful if somebody screws up, not to, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But yeah, that's a good one, Tracy. Yeah, just Heidi says, never trust somebody that says, you could trust me. Yeah, of course. Of course I can. Sure. Okay. All right. We're just taking a look here. Cat Montero with gang stalkers. If you have any perpetual addictions, such as drug, alcohol, food addiction, yeah, well, they love that. Yeah. Anytime, yeah, if you, yeah, I mean, they're looking for ways to discredit you anyway, you know, and I've talked about that before. If you're a targeted individual, You've got to walk the line. Okay, you're not just playing the regular citizen game. These people are going to do anything they can to draw you out in the spotlight. They're going to do anything they can to bastardize your reputation. They're going to do anything they can to get you thrown in jail or a psych center or whatever, or to get you on everybody's enemy list. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they know the troublemakers to agitate too. And yeah, you don't want to play that game. And if you do get into substance abuse, they're going to use that as an excuse, not only to become involved in your situation, but to accuse you. And that's it. That's exponential. I had that problem with alcohol. Bad situation, man. I mean, it was, whew, yeah. I don't drink anymore at all. Period. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. If you want to have a couple of beers, go ahead. I would suggest you stay out of the bars, and I think everybody should stay out of bars. Period. Those are bad places to be, in my opinion. But as a targeted individual, you're asking for it, man. You go to a bar, you are asking for it. I'm telling you right now, stay away from bars. And if you're going to have a beer or something like that, yeah, not even out on your front porch, probably just, go in your house, lock the door. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Well, it is getting late, and I don't know what else to talk about unless someone has a burning desire here. Okay, let's see. We've talked about a few. I just kind of go off the cuff, and of course, I haven't been sleeping that well, and of course, with that kidney stent, ugh, man, I'm talking. It doesn't feel good, guys. You don't want to have to deal with kidney stones. Kidney stones are painful, but the stent doesn't feel good either. I would recommend that all you guys out there look at what you're eating in your diet. I think that's probably what happened to me. You want low oxalate food. Um, Maybe mix a little bit of lemon juice with your water. Stay very hydrated. Um, Let me see what else. I think there was some stuff I read where you want to try to even avoid plastic cookware. If it gets heated up, you get melamine, and that contributes to the kidney stones. And let me see what else. There's a lot of different foods out there that can mess you up. High protein diet. I've been on a super high protein diets. That might have had something to do with it too. Where I was researching carnivore diet for a while there, and it just seemed too extreme for me, you know. And that can tax your kidneys anyway. So I've made some dietary changes. Research those things. I mean, I've looked into the fad diets, and you got to try to find a mixture. So it's a process of learning, and in this case, it was painful. Well, thank you, Mr. Beachwalker. I appreciate that. Tracy says, I went to the bar the other night for a family thing. I sure felt the heaviness upon me. Yeah. Well, it's creepy, it's especially if you're in one of those modes where they attack, where you're in the wrong neck of the woods. And a bar is always the wrong neck of the woods for a targeted individual. I hold to the spiritual application of this, and I'm not saying that people can't go into bars and just be cool, but there are a lot of people who are under the influence of the demonic that hang out in those places, and it's just you're taking a big risk. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me at bars. I've had a lot of bad things happen to my friends at bars. Okay. Well, guys, I think I'm going to end the live stream. I know we're moving up towards 40 people. It kind of keeps moving in and out of here. but I just wasn't that organized. I suppose I could come up with something a little more organized maybe tomorrow or tomorrow night, or I could make some more videos. You can put some comments in the feed, and maybe some ideas for videos, because I'm going to have a little bit of time off here, and I want to make it as productive as possible. I thank everybody for participating in the live stream. I'd like to thank all of you who support the channel. The link is in the description. God bless. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.